My name is Albrecht Hofheinz. I am German. I've worked in the Sudan on and off since 1982, both academically and in relief and development. So that's my background. I've been a historian by training, historian of the Islamic world, and I've done research on mystical brotherhoods, on Sufi brotherhoods in Sudan, in the north and the east of the country. Well, most persons are born into a Sufi tariqah. A Sufi tariqah is what in English most often is translated as a mystical brotherhood. And most persons are born into families that are affiliated to such brotherhoods and have been affiliated to them for generations. So it's a natural thing that people grow into. You can of course also make an individual choice and pick your own spiritual guide, pick your own spiritual leader. But that is almost the exception to the rule. The rule is that people are born into this, and this of course has also consequences on what being a member of such a brotherhood means to them. Very many people, if you ask them what does it mean to you to belong to such a brotherhood, they say, well, it means that so-and-so is my sheikh. What is a sheikh? A sheikh is a spiritual leader. So-and-so is my spiritual leader. Now, what does that mean to you? What is the spirit? What do you get out of that? Well, it means that on certain days I go there to his tomb and pray. Okay. What do you get out of praying there? And then people start becoming either vague or very precise. Very many people don't really have deep spiritual experiences relating them to the sheikh. For them it is more a social thing. It is something you do when you are a member of a certain community. It is part of the general religious rituals that characterize this community. But other people try to go deeper, and they develop personal relationship to the sheikh, and they feel the sheikh talks to them, or he may appear to them in a vision. He may guide their ideas about how life is ordered, how they should behave. So they develop a properly spiritual relationship to the sheikh. In Islam, you can distinguish kinds of two levels of religious leaders. One are the formal leaders. They are learned in the law, and these people in Arabic are called faqih or alim or ulama in the plural. They are the learned in the law, and they will tell you the rules and the limits of behavior set down in the Quran and in the Islamic tradition. What you are allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. They will tell you legal rules. They will explain the legal rules to you. While that is important for, in a way, defining moral boundaries of a community, and also for the self-conception of the community vis-a-vis outsiders, it is not very, shall I say, emotionally loaded. Whereas a sheikh is a person who kind of embodies the values and the spirit of your faith. So the relationship people have to a sheikh is much more emotional. And one can say, to an extent at least, a sheikh embodies the importance, the moral and spiritual, existential almost importance of your locality vis-a-vis in the larger world of Islam. You are part of a billion Muslims, or over a billion Muslims. You're one of a billion Muslims in the world. The centers of Islam, of official high Islam, if I may say, they're far away. They're on the Arabian Peninsula, to a place where most Muslims never get. While a sheikh carries the symbols of that religion, the values, the norms, and the emotional attachment to that religion to your locality. And this is also expressed in myths and folk tales and stories that people tell around sheikhs and around the places associated with sheikhs, their tombs or places where they have lived. So that very often people may say that the earth, the ground, the soil here on the tomb of the sheikh is the same soil as the soil in Mecca, which is the place where Muslims are supposed to go on pilgrimage, which is the place of the Prophet. The soil here is the same as the soil there, and this is the effect of the sheikh that he brings. He embodies almost physically this spirituality and these values in our place here. Or that they say there is a, from here to there, like you go to Kassala, for example, mountains of Kassala in the eastern Sudan. People will tell you that there is an underneath tunnel from here to Medina, to the tomb of the Prophet in Medina. So, they kind of literally tell you stories linking this place to the centers of their religion, which makes our place here significant. In the Sudan, most brotherhoods are really brotherhoods in the sense that most active participants in the rituals that such a brotherhood organizes are men. There are a few exceptions to that, and women also have a role. Women sing songs praising the sheikh. Women perform some rituals at home outside of the public sphere, but the public rituals performed by members of these brotherhoods are rituals which involve first and foremost men. These rituals are very often performed once or twice a week after evening prayer, for example. For example, on a very common day is on Thursday evening after prayer. You go to the tomb of the sheikh, you sing songs praising the sheikh, you read a bit of Quran, and then some groups may perform what is called as a zikr. A zikr is a communal ritual where men repeat simple formula that lead to hyperventilation, and that may lead to what anthropologists call altered states of consciousness. Some people may fall into trance, although that is the exception. But it's a ritual that is clearly sort of marking off different time and space from regular, everyday time and space. It takes you out to another world, and that is the purpose of that ritual. Apart, of course, from sort of reinforcing the community of believers or followers of this particular sheikh. And these rituals, I said, very often are performed at or near the tomb of the sheikh. They may also be performed in the larger brotherhoods at what is called a zawiya or a khalwa, depending on the region. That is a lodge, which is built by followers of the sheikh, because the sheikh normally has only one tomb. There are some sheikhs who have several tombs, but normally a sheikh has one tomb. And then if the brotherhood becomes big, than communities in other places that live further apart, further afar. They build lodges where they assemble. You know, they're most often associated with a mosque, and these become their centers where they meet. Part of the folklore of Sufi brotherhoods and the stories told about these sheikhs or spiritual leaders involve stories that are often, translated. The stories are often, the Arabic word karama used for these stories are often translated as miracles. Now, karama isn't properly speaking a miracle. Karama is a story proving the excellence of the sheikh. Most karamats are stories proving the extraordinary abilities of insight the sheikh has into how the world works, both the social world and the natural world and the spiritual world. And if you analyze individual miracle stories, most of them are not really that miraculous, but they show how the sheikh understands society and how the sheikh can see what is in every individual believer's heart. And because the sheikh has this power, he's kind of like a father figure. He understands all your problems and knows how to solve them. So he can look into your heart and he can bring forth the best qualities of you, like a father does with his children. And these miracle stories illustrate these abilities. Some of them, of course, they may also kind of then, especially if you move away from the immediate social location, the immediate area where the sheikh lives or lived, they may become more miraculous, if you will. But that is not the core of the miracle stories. The core of the miracle stories is illustration of the extraordinary capacities of the sheikh to understand how everything works and how everything should be. The relationship between Sufi or followers of Sufi tariqas and Islamists, as we use the term politically speaking, is very intricate and I would say under-researched. But yes, to give the short answer, yes, this is certainly possible, and Islamists have tried to tap into the networks of Sufi brotherhoods, because Sufi brotherhoods are, first and foremost, they're not about mystical experiences, they're about improving the person, the person of the individual follower. They're about making Muslims into better Muslims. And this is also one of the ideas behind Islamism. They want to make Muslim societies into better Muslim societies. So they have tried to tap into the network of Sufi brotherhoods in the Sudan to say, basically, we want the same thing. And they have had some success, but on the other hand, there were also followers of the mystical brotherhoods who have resented the over-politicization of Islam that comes along with the Islamist project. And then there is a generation thing also associated with that, in that many Islamists are characterized by the older leaders of the Sufi brotherhood as overheated youngsters who don't have patience enough to work, patiently with the individual believer, and that the older members may see a danger that this overheated youngsters threaten the long-term process of improving the individual by focusing too much on the state. They ignore the individual.